Have you ever felt truly lost? I mean, it's a feeling we all know, but what if it's not a person who's lost, but an entire story? To really wrap our heads around what it means for a story to just disappear, let's start with one that, for a while there, felt like it would be around forever. Right here, this is the exact moment. September 22nd, 2004. Oceanic Flight 815 rips in half over some unknown island. And just like that, one of the biggest TV shows ever, Lost, was born. It kicked off as a story about being physically lost, sure, but we all figured out pretty fast it was about so much more. You see, the whole show was built on this incredible foundation of mystery. It was never just about how do we get home. No, the real question was, what is this place? And the survivors? They were basically fighting a war on two fronts. On one hand, you had the super raw day-to-day struggle for survival. Finding water, building a camp. But then, simmering right underneath all of that, was this bizarre, almost spiritual conflict with the island itself and its creepy, mysterious inhabitants they called the Others. And driving this whole thing were these just unbelievably complex characters. You had Jack, the classic reluctant leader, a total man of science. Then you had Locke, a man of pure, unshakable faith. Sawyer, the sarcastic con man who you couldn't help but love. And Kate, the fugitive who was always running from something. Every single one of them was a puzzle, just like the island they were stuck on. And their story played out over 6 wild seasons, with one mind-blowing reveal after another. I mean, from finding that crazy hatch in the ground to that first glimmer of hope with a rescue attempt, the story just kept getting bigger and bigger. It was a true television epic. And people were absolutely obsessed. The very first episode pulled in over 18 million viewers. For 6 years, Lost wasn't just a TV show. It was this shared cultural event that millions of us were a part of. It felt solid, permanent, a story we'd never forget. And that brings us to the big question. We remember Lost because we can still watch it, right? It was saved, it was distributed. But what happens when the actual physical thing a story is stored on just goes away? And this isn't some fictional mystery from a TV show. Oh no, this is a very real problem that has erased a massive chunk of our own history, especially from the dawn of cinema. The official term for this is lost film, or in Turkish, kayıp film. And the definition is, well, it's brutal. It means a film that no one can find, anywhere. Not in a studio vault, not hidden in some collector's attic, not in a public archive. It's just gone. Now get ready for this, because the scale of this is just insane. It's estimated that up to 90%, that's 90, of all silent films are lost forever. Just let that sink in for a second. The huge majority of an entire era of storytelling has completely vanished off the face of the earth. So, how does that even happen? Well, at the end of the day, stories are stored on physical stuff, and physical stuff falls apart. Early film stock was made from this super unstable chemical cocktail that would literally just decompose over time. You combine that with terrible storage, fires, floods, or even just people forgetting about it, and you've got the perfect recipe for cultural amnesia. This gets us to the really core idea of how we save our stories. To get why they disappear, we kind of have to understand the basic physics of how we store them in the first place. Okay, so really broadly speaking, our tech falls into a couple of big buckets. On one side, you have what's called mechanical storage. That's where the data is literally a physical shape. Think about the grooves on a vinyl record or the tiny little pits a laser reads on a CD. Then you've got magnetic storage, which uses a bunch of tiny magnetic particles on something like a cassette tape or a hard drive to represent all the ones and zeros. And if you look at the history of media, it's just this constant evolution. We started with photographic film, then we moved on to mechanical and magnetic formats. And now we're living in the electronic age of flash memory and SSDs. Every single step forward was a game changer, but each one also introduced a new way for things to break or get left behind. Which, of course, brings us to today. It's easy to think that our digital world is bulletproof, right? That all our photos and stories are safer than ever. But are they really? This is the huge contradiction of our time. We are creating more stories, more data, more everything than at any point in human history. But whether that stuff will last is a whole other question. The new threat isn't just about things rotting away. It's more like a chaotic purgatory of dead and competing formats. I mean, remember HD DVDs? Or mini discs? Or zip drives? Every single one of those is a potential dead end for the stories stored on them, not because the data itself is gone, but because the machines that can read them are the things that have vanished. So we end up right back where we started, thinking about what it means to be lost. 100 years after the silent film era, we're building our own digital island, filling it up with our stories. And the question we really have to ask is this: which of those stories will future generations actually be able to find? And which ones, just like all those silent films, will simply be lost?